Welcome. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to our ReSource Pro Summit. We have more than 250 real, non-artificial human beings here. We're all looking for authenticity, connection, and a compelling future for ourselves, our families, our companies, and our clients. Summit is focused on insurance operations, and this means it is fundamentally a value creation meeting. For operations is about delivering fast, efficient, differentiated, and empathetic services to your clients so they remain loyal, buy more, and refer more to you. It's also about empowering your team members so they become more productive and motivated in their roles. Operations is the lifeblood of any business. Our theme for these 2 days is Capture the Shift. For a shift, ladies and gentlemen, is most certainly coming. Even to an industry that has been waiting for 30 years for change, for straight-through processing, a single system of record, SEMPSI, predictive underwriting, and dynamic pricing, it has long seemed that tomorrow never comes. Yet even the strongest walls eventually crumble. But we're not going to let any crumbling occur here. Here, we will create new paradigms in fortification. We will explore a range of plays on a spectrum from adaptation to transformation. And we will look for practical ways to apply these plays. Of course, the whole world is obsessed with AI. If the doomsayers are right and AI will destroy all human life on Earth, you've lost nothing being here. And if the doomsayers are wrong, this will prove to be a most valuable 2 days of learning. So right off the bat, win-win. If you've attended Summit before, please raise your hand. Please help me in welcoming all the first-timers in the coming days. One of the best things about Summit is how open and friendly and non-competitive it is. People share ideas, experiences, best practices, and learn as much from each other as from our experts on stage. It's always a good practice when you come to conferences like this to have a set of questions in mind that you'd like to explore, hear perspectives on, and return home more informed than when you arrived. If you haven't already, I recommend writing down those questions so that you are purposeful in addressing them. So I'd like to start with a question about AI. Actually, I'd like to start with the wrong question that leaders are asking about AI, and that leads often to frustrations with outcomes. That wrong question is, what can AI do for us? Other versions of this question are, what use cases can we find? How can AI transform our business? Where can we plug AI into inefficient processes? The problem with these questions is not one of intent. These are well-intentioned questions. The problem is one of process. In 1991, I was an exchange student from England studying international relations in upstate New York. My professor was a CIA analyst who had been working for the agency when Operation Desert Shield was being discussed. He described to us that one day the director of the CIA walked into the boardroom and said, "The decision to go to war has been made. Now go figure out how we made that decision." For our organizations, the decision is often AI. But the problem and the context of the problem may not have been fully analyzed. AI has become the proverbial hammer for every opportunity or problem, which is a nail. So how do we know that what can AI do for us may be the wrong question. Well, let's look at where that's been leading us. When we talk to clients today, almost all of them have pilots in testing. Please raise your hand if your organization has an AI pilot running today. The data shows that about 90% of insurance organizations have AI pilots running. 22% have deployments in production, but only 7% have successfully scaled projects enterprise-wide. What's driving the failure rates, according to BCG, is not the technology itself. It's primarily people and process issues. Team members have not been prepared how to manage and maintain AI agents, and their processes and data have not been set up to train the AI models to work effectively at scale. The challenge is that we cannot simply impose AI onto a fragmented and complex operating environment. First, we must build the foundations. These foundations are not digital, they are analog. Activities like standardization, centralization, documentation, AMS migration, together with good data hygiene, team training, and change management. Without these activities, AI becomes, at best, limited, at worst, a risk to outcomes and compliance. If you have inconsistent workflows across your organization, AI will scale inconsistency. If you have undocumented processes, AI will scale ambiguity. And if you have unique ways of working, sometimes down to the individual account manager or underwriter, and let's be honest, what insurance organizations don't, AI, fortunately or unfortunately, cannot yet read minds or even know whose minds to read. In such situations, lacking clear direction, AI will get stuck or scale false assumptions. So this leads to the key insight, the realization that AI is not just a technology transformation. It is, first of all, an operational transformation. In other words, operational readiness is AI readiness. Andrew Ng, the co-founder of Google Brain, who helped turn Google into a modern AI company, describes AI as the new electricity. This is an apt metaphor. When factories first adopted electricity, they kept the same layout. Productivity barely improved. It took factories redesigning their operation before they started to see meaningful uplifts in performance. So, if what can AI do for us isn't the right question, what is? The better question is, what does AI need from us? And this starts with a clear understanding of the problem we are solving and the detailed operating environment in which that problem exists. So let's lean into our human visualization of AI and see how we can help it out. AI is like a brilliant yet highly literal analyst. He will follow exactly what the data tells him. So you'd better be sure that you have clean, consistent data, standardized processes, governance guardrails, and human experts to supervise. Now, there are several challenges in teaching our brilliant literal analyst the work. First, highly fragmented workflows can lead to an incredible number of variations and exceptions across your organization. This means training our agent on tasks that differ by carrier, line of business, geography, policy type, system, risk, and even individual account manager. At ReSource Pro, we see over 10,000 different document types, and each of these have different wording and judgment rules. Many of these are informal, tribal, or undocumented. And of course, in insurance, small wording changes can have big downstream effects, like shall versus may, known versus should have known. nuances that AI systems may struggle to pick up unless trained. Second, our AI agent needs to be trained on data. But what if that data is not well maintained or involves text notes, complex formats, invisible context like relationships, risk tolerance, or renewal timing? It's painstaking but necessary work to fix our data and train our brilliant AI agent on that. Third, our AI agent can recognize patterns, but often needs to be taught business intent to make judgment calls. These are called decision traces, the reasoning logic behind judgment calls, which often needs to be documented, taught, or deduced from the context. This is where humans may need to stay in the loop in order to assure the correct calls were made. And fourth, business rules are constantly changing. We receive thousands of SOP change requests every month. Someone has to keep our AI agent informed and up to date. Otherwise, our brilliant analyst could be acting 24/7 on old and wrong information. Perhaps most important, we need to make sure that our brilliant AI analyst shares how he completed his work. We cannot have black boxes where no one can trace what outputs were built on which assumptions. Instead of a black box, we need a crystal box that we can see through to understand what happened and what course corrections were needed going forward. Every agent decision needs to be explainable, auditable, and defensible. So, clean data, standard processes, clear decision traces, documented and updated rules, these are the elements of operational and AI readiness. But we also know that most insurance organizations, particularly those that have been acquisitive, are far from this nirvana. In insurance, 95% accuracy is a failing grade. It means a 5-point risk to compliance and to your business. AI success in our regulated industry, where hallucinations, errors, false positives, and false negatives cannot be tolerated, requires incredible attention to detail. The people who succeeded with AI sourced their work from the bottom of the org chart, from the people who actually do the work and know what they're talking about and what will and will not work. I call this the messy middle of insurance. So let's take a closer look at the work. When we document workflows for clients, we think of them across a number of layers. You have functions, such as initiate renewal process, tasks, enter into rating system, steps, prepare underwriting summary. And then we have sub-steps and detailed instructions. And as you go deeper into the process, you find that the middle gets messier. Practically every line in the instructions is a conditional statement that leads to other conditional statements, reference documents, contingent rules, and unique definitions. If construction type shows other, change it per the premises tab. If there are blanket limits, fill in the specific coverage per the subject tab. And does each organization have only one documented procedure for each function? Of course not. We have clients with more than 50 SOPs for one function and hundreds of variation points per SOP. So a single MGA, carrier broker, may have thousands of variations across a single function. We have one employee benefits task, for instance, that has 500 pages of instructions for a 15-minute procedure. That's the messy middle. So, what's driving all of this messy variation? Well, partly it's the structure of the industry, with many thousands of corporate stakeholders across retail, wholesale, and carriers, representing 500,000 office locations in the United States, and almost innumerable versions of risk reflected in forms, policies, rules, and nuance. But it's not just the structure of the industry that drives variation. It comes from the nature of insurance as a client-centric business where professionals are primarily service-oriented around the needs of their clients and only secondarily focused on optimizing systems and processes. This service centrism is a feature, not a bug, as it leads to elevated client care and attentiveness, but it does create a conflict with a process-driven approach that solves first for what can be standardized and optimized, and only second creates exceptions for what must remain customized. We see this tendency for customization and fragmentation in the work that we do for you, where our work is a reflection of your priorities and workflows. And while we may all believe that our workflows are a thing of beauty, sometimes there's a different reality lurking beneath, at least as it relates to AI readiness. Across several hundred clients, we support around 300 core workflows, have 70,000 versions of those workflows, and around 7 million variation points. That's a lot of variation to train AI on. And so, among our most forward-looking clients, we are engaged in a process to help them standardize, streamline, and optimize these workflows to eliminate unnecessary variation and to find the optimal balance between service and process. There are 3 pillars to this process that bridges operational readiness to AI readiness. The 3 pillars of this bridge are integrate, optimize, digitize, IOD. Integrate, standardize workflows, unify systems, centralize functions. Optimize, streamline processes, use APIs, build functional teams. And digitize involves cleansing data, setting up agentic platforms, and governance practices. The good news is that if you go through this 3-step approach, even before you gain any lift from AI and automation, you will see an enormous lift in productivity, consistency, client engagement, and in business outcomes like improved bind ratios, client retention, and account profitability. If your organization is preparing for an IPO or its next exit, this process increases operational control and enterprise value. Building this strong bridge to AI readiness helps us overcome 3 key constraints that organizations face in achieving enterprise-wide performance. The first constraint is hyperlocalization. When you've seen one office, you've seen one office. You could send in a forward-deployed engineer to observe the work, build AI agents across a function, and it may work great for that office, but it may not scale and adapt to other offices. That's why it's so important to define what should be standardized, customized, and centralized across functions, teams, and offices. The second constraint is edge cases. At ReSource Pro, we live in the edge cases, as I'm sure you imagine. So let's say we send our forward-deployed engineer back into the office for 3 months. In that time, she can train AI agents on 80% of the standard cases. But it could take 6 or 9 months to see the additional 20% of edge cases. These edge cases can break the process unless AI agents are given the full decision context. The third constraint is source of truth. This is not just the document, procedure, or rule that you determine is the right way to train the AI agent. The challenge may be finding the right person within your organization whose voice should be heard above others. What you don't want is this scenario. What's a simple Praetorian to do to manage so much enthusiasm? What we don't want is too many volunteers with a vested interest in their custom process. What we want is to identify process experts who can provide context and reasoning across hundreds or thousands of decision points. So, as we advance to AI readiness, each of these constraints, hyperlocalization, edge cases, and source of truth, must be anticipated and resolved to drive impact across the enterprise. I want to wrap up by describing how ReSource Pro is retooling for the agentic era. The world as we know is an unpredictable place. We're all trying to strategize and navigate the changes around us. We feel the pressure at ReSource Pro, and it drives us constantly to increase our relevance and value to you. Insurance organizations are also facing threats from AI-native brokers, AI-native MGAs, and AI-native carriers. Incumbents can't simply discard their systems, processes, and people and start again. Incumbents need a strategy and a programmatic way to upshift their operations and embrace the opportunities that AI brings. You have inbuilt advantages. You own your client relationships, retain 90% of your accounts each year, and have deep subject matter expertise. But the path to growth is not protected by scale and legacy. It's protected by operational readiness. None of us is alone on this journey. ReSource Pro is here to support you on yours, and we welcome your partnership on ours. As your partner, I want to share with you that ReSource Pro is making considerable investments in our AI, data, and tech stack. We're assigning more than $10 million in new AI and analytics spend this year on talent, tools, and capabilities. We acquired a team of AI insurance native Flow and merged them into our AI factory. We brought in a team of data scientists from Insurtech startup agency KPI to expand our data services team. We added world-class AI advisors, practitioners, and partners, and deepened the collaboration between our offshore centers of excellence and our AI foundations team. Our engineers are building expertise in all the large foundational models so we can bring our platforms into solutions or work with yours. We recently restructured our business into 2 business lines, each with their own president. Insurance Solutions, led by Michael Costonis, supports clients through business process and agentic process management and data insights. Technology Services, led by Paul Nokan, assists clients on their own technology journey through systems integration, data, and IT services. You will hear from Michael and Paul on this stage tomorrow. These 2 business lines come together to create the 4 layers of our operating stack. Through this stack, we are offering services and productized AI solutions like policy insights, certs, loss runs, submissions, and EB spreadsheeting. In short, we are recoding ReSource Pro for the AI era. So, this is our direction for ReSource Pro. Much has been built, and much remains to be built. We are integrating everything we've learned over the last 20 years and updating it with cutting-edge management, technology, and AI. So, as we go from 2026 into 2027 and beyond, I give you ReSource Pro for the agentic process era.
Better, stronger, faster.
Let's capture the shift. Thank you so much.